The notorious hacking group Anonymous has declared war on Russia and
Finally,
is targeting Russian
I want to get down on this
websites. The
shit.
group
Okay, Anonymous hacking Russia. Just news. Okay, Anonymous Ukraine. Okay, more news. Great. Where the fuck do I go for this? Okay, let's try Reddit. More fucking news. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I think someone sent me a Telegram link. What the fuck is this? You know what? I'm just gonna go do cigarettes instead. Yo, I'm Mike Vitale, Seth Dude. This shit has been playing out like thousands of times since this has started. And you'll never know how many people it's played out with because those people aren't in your raid. And why aren't they in your raid? Because they can't fucking find your raid. And what's worse is that the people who are in your raid can't fucking find the other people in the raid. So there's no coordination and people are just doing shit. Luckily, Anonymous already solved this problem years ago. You just need the right raid structure. In my opinion, this is Anonymous's best weapon. It's a leaderless, 100% scalable, self-policing, fully democratic, all-volunteer structure that self-checks for efficiency. It combines decentralized organization with centralized managing, providing the benefits of both while being extremely resistant to attacks. It can support clandestine operations while having no chain of command whatsoever. It could organize any number of people, ensuring that their best skills are put to use while not being dependent on any specific set of individuals. It makes Anonymous capable of being the most substantial use of digital force on the planet, and it is built for fucking war. This is Anonymous 101. Structure.
When you cut off the head, fucking to grow back.
When I talk about the structure of Anonymous, what I'm talking about specifically are the sites, chats, and apps that are used by the people in it to organize, and additionally the decision-making process that goes into, how everything works. So let's start where we're at now in the early days of OpUkraine. So this is a naturally occurring cell-only solution. What I mean by that is that this is just what forms, right? Like if nobody does anything to organize anything, this is just what happens naturally. And it's all work based around independent anonymous cells. So a cell is just a word for a working group or a crew. It was like this in early Trinology when we all first started and the entire thing first formed, but really it became kind of the standard after like 2012, 2013 when the real infrastructure collapsed back again. So let me explain what we're looking at. So people come in here through the chats, which are on Discord and Telegram. Now, of course, they have to already know these chats exist in the first place, so recruitment is word of mouth, I guess. Anyway, what's happening is that these chats are eventually filtering down into these DDoS groups here. And here's all of the activity. These are target rooms. So it's just DDoS groups and these cells. And there's very little interaction between the two, with the exception of sometimes the hacker groups will share data over to the DDoS groups in the form of like software that they've made so that they could DDoS more. And while they're doing that, the hacker cells will hack whatever they can. They'll dump their stuff on the third-party repositories, right? So if they get a bunch of docs, they'll put them over there. And then a lot of times they'll share that information on random Twitter accounts, which will just get taken down like super fucking fast because Twitter does not let that go down. Like you can't just put people's documentation on there even if they're quote-unquote bad guys. Now this nebulous cloud of nobody knows is representing unaffiliated random people from like all corners of the internet. They seem to be putting out a lot of shit, videos, memes, posts, but nobody knows where this shit is actually coming from. And of course there's zero coordination, so it's like hyper exploitable, super unhelpful. It's like fucking great, the 40th video of a guy in a mask just saying shit about Russia has come out, cool, like a lot of fucking tactical good that's doing. No one's working with them, shit just comes out, it just appears. So basically it is what it is, this is the basic structure, and there are a lot of other problems with it also. First and worst, there's no fucking gateways. Like there's no way for people to just come in who don't already know where everything is to find new shit. The way that this works is that this is an all volunteer army. So everybody's gonna come in, and a lot of them, 80% probably, every few weeks, they're gonna cycle out. And those people who cycle out need to be replenished with new people coming in. So if there's no recruitment process, and if there's no way for new people to actually find your shit, like, it's just going to peter out. People get bored and fuck off. Believe me, doesn't matter how important this is. That's how this works. People get bored. It sucks. So now there are 3 basic outputs here, right? It's DDoS, and it's hacks, and it's videos. This shit doesn't count because it's just stuff talking about the other outputs. Nothing new is actually happening here. Now, we already said that the videos are coming from like fuck knows where, so this whole raid is revolving around DDoSing and some hacker cells. When you do get new people in, if they don't know how to DDoS, there's nothing for them to do. And then those people aren't sticking around to figure out if there are any tasks that they could possibly pick up that are non-technical. They just go, oh, this is not for me, and they leave. Yeah, I gotta say, if your whole raid is just gonna be DDoSing, it's gonna suck. DDoSing is a tool. It can cause some inconvenience generally. All these Russian sites are just gonna get behind a DDoS-resistant host. Then what? You just have, what, a few hacker cells that are gonna run around and hack a few things with no coordination, not working together at all? Not good.
Yes! Fuck!
Then, of course, the next obvious problem here is there's no governance. There's no way to coordinate. Like, you could see it in the structure. There's nothing there. And that means there's no decision-making as a whole, which means there's no way to strategize a long-term raid. And this shit will be long-term, believe me. Also, to this point, there is no method of quality control whatsoever for videos because they're just getting released from the nebulous cloud and just onto like legacy YouTube accounts. So it could just sit there next to a bunch of conspiracy theory videos and other fucking nonsense. Now, the biggest problem with this is that it's actually very insecure. It's easy to disrupt. There are so many avenues to disruption in here that it would take me and 6 insurgents a week to completely fuck all this up. You could put fake targets in here and just waste everybody's fucking time. You could just like sit in these rooms for long enough so that people recognize you and think you're part of the group and then just start drama and bullshit. Everything being put out on social media could just be counteracted by burying these hashtags with a bot. You could release your own dumb mask videos with a fucking call to action thing, except it's for something that's completely fucking useless and is meant to mislead the entire group. Or is meant to just have these lofty goals that never go anywhere, so when everyone sees they never go anywhere, they all get disheartened and they don't give a shit. Or it fucks with your credibility with the other people who are watching from the outside. Another thing you could do to this whole structure is you could just go and tell Discord that people are using their chats to commit illegal activities. And then what Discord's going to do is they're going to look into it, find out that it's true, and then they're going to pull the license from the people who are running those servers for a terms of service violation. And then when those servers go down, that's a real fucking killer. All right, whatever. Let's just move on to the main structure. So this is Anonymous running like a well-oiled machine. And it's actually a lot easier to build than you think. And we stumbled upon this more or less out of necessity and refined it over time, usually as a result of attacks by insurgents and other penis heads. So at the top here, you have your dedicated gateways. Fucking no third-party shit. Somebody's gonna have to buy a domain and build a website with a homepage and forums. The gateway is the first place that people go to get involved. Usually it's a website, a homepage, right? Something.com. It's also the place that most of the media in the project released will link back to. So if someone sees a video that Anonymous released and they go, holy shit, that's crazy, and they'll just be able to go into the description and go and find the main website and get involved. Everything points to this. Now, that's done for search engine optimization reasons as well, so that when people Google Anonymous and Ukraine, that comes up, not the news. The homepage contains all the entry-level information that somebody's going to need, and it links to most other static parts of the raid, right? So it'll link to everything. It links to the forums, it links to the chats, it even often hosts its own chats, and it of course links to the raid wiki. Now, the easiest way to make sure your project loses steam is to not have a dedicated gateway like this. Yeah, I know, Anonymous is Legion, Anonymous is Hivemind, but Anonymous is going to have 37 people in it if nobody could find your fucking operation channels. So the forums and chats both need to be broken out into these major categories, at least. So this is a group that didn't exist in the other chart, organizers. I'll get into how it actually works in a minute, but you just need to see that information is flowing from here and here into the organizers, who then filter it down into people who do the roles that we talked about in the last video, and of course also to the cells and the hacker groups. So now you have the Anons and Insurgents and the cells and hacker groups working on operations. And because of the organizers, things could be strategized and timed. And the organizers are pulling their ideas from these strategy rooms, which is essentially the anonymous brain trust. Now remember, everything here exists on both a chat and a forum. So all of this is really like 2 groups for the price of 1. Of course, all the videos, all the press releases, any of the other things that are generated by #press are going to be going into the public repositories and all of the social media stuff. So these official pages here are actually new pages that are set up mostly from the people over here.
Everything clean, everything new.
And different people can run them, but it's a collaboration. These guys know these guys. Whereas the independent pages are basically everybody else. They're going to want to work with the people in the projects and have access to the media, and that's fine as long as they link to the gateways. Now, in addition to producing the media that flows through this whole side of the board here, press people are also going to be putting out stuff that's mission critical to active operations. And I'll show you exactly what I mean. So a hacker cell recently busted into some government printers and they printed 10,000 copies of this. So I like stuff like this. This is a great operation. But this looks like shit and it's written poorly. Why? Because the skill set of hacking and the skill set of writing copy are, believe it or not, 2 fucking different things. Graphic design also. So because these hackers had no talent pool to pull from, they had to make do with whatever the hell they had themselves, right? Are they going to be better at that than somebody who is as good at making media as they are at hacking? And even if they are they going to be the best in the world at it? Because Anonymous represents the entire internet. We should have the best in the world at it, or something very close at least. So with this structure, they're going to go into press and they're going to say, hey guys, we're working on some hacks and we'll likely get root on the server like real soon. Can we develop something to replace their website with? And they will say, yes, and form a working group and even continue to work with the hacker guys to produce something actually good. What's also important is that the people in press have been working on all the shit for the entire rest of the fucking project. So everything stays pretty consistent from a quality standpoint and from a messaging standpoint. Also known as quality control. And it's worth mentioning that there are people in press that are actually in the organizational channels too. So the organizers are going to know that the hackers need a thing. And they're going to know that a hack is going down, even if the hackers haven't themselves told the organizers. People from the actual press get filtered down into these press rooms. And if someone from CNN wants to interview someone from Anonymous, a reporter will start at the gateway, they'll wind up in a chat, they'll ask the people in the chat, and they'll be directed to the press room. Then the press room people will vet them, usually with these guys, to make sure they are who they say they are, and then to select a person who's been media trained, who knows what they're talking about, to do the interview with them. So this is, again, keeping up with quality control, improving security, and making sure the messaging is on point. This is what Occupy fucked up, and this is why Occupy lost.
You know that taxpayers actually made money on the Wall Street bailout?
I was not aware of that.
You're going to want to avoid that whenever you can. Now, let's get back into this and talk about the organizers. We start to get into the real meat of how this thing works. The first question you have should be, who are the organizers and how are they selected? So all of this infrastructure has staff. The homepage has an admin, the forums have admins, and there's admins running the chat servers as well. There's also people running the Facebook pages, the Twitter channels, the YouTubes, and each Discord chat and forum subcategory, they each have their own mods. Boop, 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 boop. So all these red dots, these are your organizers. They'll sit in a private chat on a secure server, IRC or Discord or whatever, and they will stay in close contact all the time. Everyone will know who everyone is and where they come from. They could then pull in other people to the chat with a vote. It makes sense if this is somebody from the strategy channel who's showing talent, or just any other part of the raid where they would obviously be helpful and that they could be vetted. You see here how there's this two-way arrow with the cells and the hacker groups and the organizers, and how they are meant to be working together? Well, that's because the independent cells and the hacker groups should be sending representatives into the organizer channels. They could let those organizers know what they're working on if it needs to be secret. So the organizers could even reach back out to other hacker cells and other groups to help this crew out if they need it. And also it could tell them to fucking hold off if something they're going to do is going to conflict with something else that's going on. The organizers spend most of their time discussing strategy and operations. They come up with operations either from themselves or from things that they farm from the greater collective. And then they develop everything as a group. either with the people whose ideas it was or with themselves. They vote on everything: who could access the channel, which operations get priority, which press releases they're going to back if there's multiple, when they need a press release. You get it. They love to vote. When they decide on a new operation, they're responsible for leading those initiatives. Forum mods will pin threads about selected operations on the forums so that they're on top, and it shows that they're important and get priority. Chat channel mods will recruit personnel to the operation with their own channels, and it'll work to actively gather people to get them involved. Other organizers in the chat could work on the information of the op, essentially a dossier that explains exactly what the op is, what it's going to be doing, what it needs, why it's strategically relevant, any relevant information of note that people are going to know going in, that sort of shit. So I haven't talked about this Square the Raid wiki, but this comes into play here. The Raid wiki is a public wiki page set up to be the internal repository of operational information. It's one of the few things here that's not mandatory, but there's a reason why all tech and IT companies keep a knowledge base. It's a wiki. Anybody could edit it. It's extremely helpful to have a searchable and well-maintained database for everything, and it also will link to every single part of your RAID infrastructure. Organizers could start wiki pages for their specific ops to dump their dossiers and make it so that people do not have to trudge through the forums looking for operations or critical information on existing operations. Subject matter experts within your RAID can literally dump their brains out in this RAID wiki and expect that the info will actually be used. Or at the very least that we have that info, it's all in one place. In any case, the organizers direct the Anons and insurgents to do the operations simply by using the elements of the infrastructure which they themselves run. Okay, I'm leaning in because this shit's important. With Anonymous, it's never here's your mission, it's always here's your mission should you choose to accept it. So could other people not in the organizational channel create operations? Of course. It's completely normal for organizers to have the operations that they're promoting up on the forums right next to operations that they've never even fucking heard of. But do those other ops have a dossier? Are they planned tightly? Are they obviously good ideas? Did those people already go over to the press room and fucking get press made for it, or get whatever media they need? If no, don't worry about it. Those ops probably aren't going to go very far. And if they do, and if they've been run with a tight ship, then those people who've been running those operations should be pulled into the organizer channels themselves.
Hi.
So in this way, everything is kept all-inclusive. The organizers are voting on everything that they do. Everyone's under the same umbrella, except they aren't. Now let's really talk about cells. The cell I'm from, the NYC Anon cell, had a lot of private operations. And I'm fucking super lucky because the people who were in my cell who were around me were very, very smart and very, very good at this sort of shit. We caused a lot of fucking damage. We still hang out. A cell is a semi-autonomous working group, and it exists within the larger sphere of Anonymous. And it could exist with or without a project at all. Cells will form circumstantially, and they'll use a mix of their own infrastructure, which is this, and they'll use the main Anonymous infrastructure to fill in the gaps for stuff that they don't have on a smaller level. But overall, that's a pretty big upside to cells. They are much more secure than the spaces where the collective works, but they still get all the benefits of having this big, wide infrastructure with thousands of people in it. You know most of the people in the room. If someone's there who you don't recognize, you could rightly say, who the fuck is that guy? Now, structure-wise, a cell will look just like a microcosm of the main structure here. So this down here, independent infrastructure, is meant to represent their own chats and forums that they set up themselves. And anything they're too small for, or they don't have on their own, they borrow from the main infrastructure. A lot of times they won't have their own press room, right? So, well, they just go and use press just like everybody else. It's like a fucking Anonymous franchise. You run the store, we'll send you the hamburgers. This hamburger looks like a twat. Hair. Cells run their own operations. They do their own shit. So let's say a small cell in their own private chat has an idea for Operation Buttfuck. That Anon will say, hey, fuck faces, we should figure out a way to spam Russian officials with pictures of Putin getting fucked in the ass. Then someone else will say, haha, yeah, I bet we could do it to their cell phones via text. They'll never see it in email. And then another dude will say, cool, okay, yeah, let's call it Operation Buttfuck. And then they'll go, yeah, we can get the numbers from the docs drop. That'll be fucking perfect. So now they know what to do and they have a methodology. But in their cell of 20 or so people, they're not going to have all the necessary pieces to do those things sometimes. So when they need access to a skill set they don't have or resource that they don't have, they then go and use the part of the infrastructure of Greater Anonymous that does have it. Cells also help to keep things less centralized. So say one of the admins of one of the main sites is fucking up. Maybe they're running their site in a shitty way, or they're overstepping their bounds, trying to push the raid in a direction that the general people don't want, something like that. Well, an established cell is going to be in a much better position to do something about it and to rebuild a new site or do whatever the fuck the situation calls for, because they already have a working group on it. Now, I said in my intro that this is scalable, and I certainly meant it. So there could be as many layers of the infrastructure as you need to support the amount of people in the raid. Having more than one project homepage and a separate staff running it is a generally good idea once you see the number of users is getting real high. So scaling with the organizer rooms works the exact same way. It's super impractical to run a strategy channel with 500 fucking people in it. So what'll happen is that this form will take its own mods and admins, and it'll run its own organizer channel. And then maybe this Discord will do the same, and maybe even a second Discord and a second forum will do the same, and they'll make another one of their own organizer channels too. Or some sort of hodgepodge might form in a different corner of the raid, and they'll put forward their own. And it's fine, as long as each of these channels know the others exist, and they send one or two guys to go and sit in the other channels as well. It's all well and good as long as everything has overlap. They could even decide to go and form like a super channel as a group that has representatives from all the different organizational channels that sprung up. So we had this happen in early 2008. Our very centralized organizational channel got all fucked up because of drama, and it broke down. So we were able to reform these rooms, but not with all the original people in it, because they were unwilling to work with each other. So it was this weird Venn diagram where most people were in both rooms, but some people were only in one and the other. Eventually we settled on something that was like a Senate and House of Representatives kind of situation, where we had one massive room that had like everybody who qualified from like every little bit of infrastructure. And then on the other side, it was a lot of the people from the original planning channel, and then like, you know, some like representatives from each little thing, instead of just having, you know, 7,000 people in the same fucking room. In any case, the issue is that the entire world is against Russia right now. So this structure can support millions of people. It could scale to that. Fuck DDoSing. The amount of damage you could do if you recruit out of that pool is out fucking rageous. But it has to be real anonymous. It can't just be this loose, embarrassing shit where there's like media that comes out of nowhere and it's cringy, and fucking like there's operations that just don't materialize, where there's no fucking coordination, where there's no strategy, when the output is only a couple of things. So the next video I'm going to be putting out is how to raid using the structure that we just talked about in this video. But for right now, your next steps are: 1. Get that fucking gateway site up and running. 2. Staff the forums. 3. Start linking all of the existing infrastructure together with linkbacks to each other and to the gateway. That means if you're running a Discord server right now that's about this, you should be seeking out the people who run other Discord servers and making sure that both of you have the link for the other in your chat channel info. And especially to the fucking gateway homepage once that shit's up. Also, you have to begin a recruitment campaign and blast that shit out all over the fucking internet. This is super fucking easy. It's literally a no-brainer. You get a guy like in the anonymous suit, kind of looks like an Uncle Sam sort of thing with the suit and the tie, you know, could have the hat, and then, you know, the Guy Fawkes mask, and it's pointing at the fucking, you know, person like this, and it says, "Anonymous wants you to join the fight against Russia, or to fucking avenge Ukraine," or whatever the fuck way you want to put it. It's a super easy media to make, and all it has to do is just link to that gateway underneath. Then everyone just spreads it and makes sure to fucking share it on their own personal shit. It'll get everywhere. It'll populate the gateways forums. Everything should really be up and running in like a few days tops. It's so fucking easy. Okay, bye. We still hang out.